In my recent review video of the Anycubic Cobra S1, I featured this 1:1 scale model of a car brake rotor, caliper, and bearing hub assembly. Some people showed some interest in getting the files and building one for themselves, so I wanted to make this video to explain each of the parts and how everything will go together, and the very few non-3D printed parts that you'll need, and optionally 2 pieces that you could laser cut instead of 3D printing. So let's get into it. So this model features actual wheel bearings from a real car. And in the 3D printing file list, I'm going to put these 2 parts. One is a tube or a sleeve that represents the inner housing of the wheel hub bearing carrier, and the other one is a spindle test piece. And the reason that you may need to print these first out of all of the other parts is because of how these 2 are going to fit together with the bearings. As most of us know by now, all 3D printers do not print exactly the same. The tolerances have gotten better with them over the years, but your printer may still print slightly big or slightly small, and we need these bearings to fit properly. The tapered roller bearings feature an inner cone and an outer cup. The larger bearing is the inner wheel bearing, and the smaller bearing is the outer wheel bearing. Both of these will fit into the wheel hub, and for now it's going to be this little test piece here, which represents the inside of the actual hub. The inner wheel bearing will fit in from the back side of the wheel hub, so the larger side, like this. And the first thing you'll do is you'll slip the cup inside, and then you can slip the cone inside. And the cup should be a light press fit inside. You don't want a sloppy fit. Ideally, you want it to press in lightly. Then you can slide the spindle in, and it should also press in lightly as well. Again, you don't want a sloppy fit here, and you shouldn't have to ram it in too hard. Then we can flip over to the other side, and this is going to be the outer wheel bearing. And in the same way, we'll press the cup in first, and then we'll place the cone over the spindle that's sticking out, and we can press it into the cup. After that, we can place our flat spindle washer on top, and then our M16 castle nut. You only need to finger tighten the castle nut, as anything more than that and you'll begin to add bearing preload, essentially forcing the cone into the cup. At some point, too much preload will prevent the bearings from spinning at all. If you're not getting a good bearing fit, you may have to consider scaling these pieces slightly, but the idea is you're printing test pieces before committing to printing the large pieces. I already confirmed the fit of all of the 3D printed threads in this project on both the Anycubic Cobra S1 as well as several other Creality machines. But similar to the pieces that hold the bearings, you may want to consider printing a couple of the threaded pieces on their own to make sure that your printer is capable of printing the threads properly. One of the larger pieces of this build is the wheel bearing hub, and it's going to be printed in this orientation here. This part will carry most of the weight of the rotor assembly, so you may want to consider printing this part with at least 3 walls. The other detail that should be present if you download my 3MF files is underneath the hub there is one surface that does need to be supported, which I've already painted on. This is the shoulder that the inner wheel bearing will interface with, so this surface does need to be nice and flat. You can also see at the top of the part I've integrated 5 M12 threads, and these will also need a little bit of strength. So you may also want to add a height range modifier to your part and increase the infill density towards the top of the part around those threads. At the bottom of the model we have these black legs, and they're basically just stand legs for the entire assembly. They're very easy prints and they'll just lay flat on your print bed, and the only thing here is that they are supporting the weight of the whole assembly, so I printed these in 4 walls and about 25% infill density. Otherwise there's no special requirements here, and they are marked left and right, and the left side will be the stand on the left hand side when facing the model from the front. Next we can take a look at some of the pieces that make up the brake rotor, and this is intended to look like a 2-piece rotor, but because it's 3D printed I did have to separate it into many more than just 2 pieces. I also did my best to make the parts fit on smaller printers like the Ender 3, but you may also have to split some of these models if you're having a hard time. The rotor hub can be printed face down, and you'll notice that there will be some surfaces that do need some support. So I would recommend that you use the support painting tool, and just make sure that your support interface layer is dense enough that those surfaces will print nicely, because you can see some of it in the final model. On my model, you can see that they did print okay and the supports came off easy enough, but I did have to clean up those surfaces with a razor blade. The next part is the rotor inner ring, and the only thing special about this part is that it does feature many bridges. I was able to successfully print this part without any support on the Anycubic Cobra S1, but if your printer struggles to print bridges cleanly, then I would recommend that you do add some support. The rotor cooling fins are next, and I had to split these into 2 individual bodies in order to get them to fit diagonally on the Anycubic Cobra S1. These should also fit in the same way on a Bamboo Lab machine, Essentially anything in the 250 by 250 build area range, anything smaller than that, and you may have to break those parts up a little further. The next part to print is the spindle, and looking at the back of the model, you can see it's also integral to how the entire model is supported. So you'll definitely want to go with minimum 3 walls and potentially 20% or so infill. Also, you should have already printed the spindle and hub test pieces, so you should have some idea of how much you'll need to scale this model up or down. Hopefully it won't be anything at all, but it should really be less than 1% either up or down. Otherwise, you definitely risk impacting how all of the other parts interface with the spindle, especially that thread. The bearing surface on the spindle should also have printed clean. Now you can use aligned seams or you can use a random seam, but the reason I like to use an aligned seam is that if my bearing fit is too tight, usually I can easily locate the seam and just shave it down a little bit with a razor blade. And that's a lot easier to do than scaling that model. The next thing up we have attached to the spindle is going to be this brake bracket. And this bracket exists because I didn't want to make the spindle body itself any larger, because then it may not have fit on smaller machines. This is also a very simple part, and there's nothing special about it. Now we can get into some of the parts that you can optionally print in multicolor. One of those is the lug nuts, and the only reason that I printed these in more than one color was because at the time I was testing the Cobra S1 combo, and I thought these parts would be a good demonstration for multicolor printing, also add a little flair to them, and it was a good demonstration to show that when you're using multicolor printing, if you print more than one model at the same time, you save a lot of time as well as saving a lot of that filament waste. So it's really up to you if you want to print these in more than one color. Back in the 3D model, you'll also notice that the front half of the brake caliper has a logo on it, and this is another part that we can optionally print with a multicolor machine. Now, regardless of whether or not you can print in more than one color, I would recommend importing this part into your slicer using the 3MF file provided. This way, the several bodies that make up this half of the caliper will be imported such that they're all in the correct position, and they will come all pre-colored. Then you can just change the printer and print profile to whatever suits your machine, and you can hide the individual bodies that make up the logo if you don't want to print them in another color, and you're fine with the logo just cut into your part. You may also have noticed that this front half of the caliper will require some supports. Make sure you have your support settings dialed in because these supported surfaces will be highly visible on the front of the model when it's finished. The back half of the caliper is only a single body part and it can be printed face down. It's intended to be a single color part, does not require any supports, and the only thing you gotta watch out for is that there are some internal threads built into this part. The brake pads are the next part of the caliper assembly. You'll need 2 of them. They're both identical, and the only thing here is that you'll need to add some support to the counterbore holes. The caliper related hardware will be in a separate file, and there's going to be 4 M10 socket head cap screws as well as 4 M8 socket head cap screws. There will also be 4 M8 washers. Do a good job inspecting these parts after they're finished and clean up the threads if you have to. There's one other piece of hardware on the caliper, and it's this retaining pin. It gets printed upright, so it could be easy to knock over because it does have a small surface area on the bottom, so you may want to consider adding a brim to this part. This retaining pin will lock into place on the model with this C-clip. You should be able to get it to pretty easily snap into place in the groove on the retaining pin. We'll fit this to the caliper later in the video. One optional piece is this LED holder. In an attempt to make this model more interesting while it's sitting on the table, I decided that I was going to add an LED strip to the inside of the model and see if I could get it to shine through some of the holes as well as the cooling fins of the rotor. If you have no interest in trying to light up your model, then you will not need to print this part. The final 2 parts that we need to discuss are the brake rotor surfaces. I left these for last because I personally cut these out of acrylic using one of my laser cutters. Now, if you have the tools to do this, this is going to look the best because each of those rotors will come out as one continuous piece. Now, if you don't have a laser cutter, I've also split these parts up into several pieces so that you can print them on your 3D printer. That being said, if you also have a printer that is capable of printing at least 300 by 300, then you can print these rotor surfaces in one shot. Now in my case, because I did go with the acrylic rotor surfaces, I also countersunk the holes to make them look more realistic. This is an optional step, but I do think it looks really good. Now looking at the assembly, the first thing we can do is attach our rotor hub to the front rotor surface. And to do that, we're also going to need to bring in the inner ring of the rotor because this is where we have all of the holes that our screws will fit into. The hole spacing on the front and the back is the same, and they're just staggered so the holes don't run into one another. The front rotor surface is going to get sandwiched between these two parts, so I'll put that in the middle, and then we're going to be using these M4x10 thread forming screws for the entire build. This is the only piece of hardware that you're going to need. Those screws will pass through the front rotor hub, the front rotor surface, and then they'll thread into that inner ring. I'll put a link to these screws down in the video description below because they are thread forming screws, so they will cut their own threads and you won't need to tap any holes. Next, we'll bring in the rotor cooling fins, and you'll want to align them such that the holes in the rotor surface get spaced between those fins. If you want to add some kind of alignment mark with a permanent marker, you can do that. Nobody's going to see the inside of this, but we are going to be attaching these now with some super glue. I applied this glue to the outer face of the inner ring, as well as the surface of the rotor, and then I've stuck those cooling fins on with the glue, and then I went and added more glue to the top of those cooling fins, and then placed the rear brake rotor surface on top and used more of those M4x10 thread forming screws to secure this piece down to the inner ring. And now you can see our rotor is complete. And in a moment, I'm going to add some optional LEDs to this project. So I went ahead and made a second rotor, and this time for the rotor surfaces, I used some clear acrylic. I think it's going to look really great with some LEDs shining through. However, I'm not sure how I feel about being able to see the rotor cooling fins on the inside. If I were to do it again, I'd probably use some material that's more heavily frosted. Next, I'll mount the optional LED holder ring to the spindle. And you can see at the bottom of the ring, there is a hole for the LEDs to pass through, and we're going to align that with the bottom of the spindle. I'll put links in the video description down below to the two different styles of LEDs that I used. This one here is the cob style, and you'll also see later that I used some RGBs. The LED mounting ring will get attached to the spindle using 5 more of those M4x10 thread forming screws. It should look something like this when you're done, and now we can start to thread our LEDs through that hole in the bottom. You can see here how I've taken my strip of LEDs and how I've threaded it through that hole, and I've taken the power cord and power switch and put it through the back of the spindle. Now I can use the adhesive backing of the LEDs and begin to wrap it around the LED mount. This particular LED strip is 2 meters long, and if I wrap it around in a spiral pattern, it goes around almost 3 times. And this is what it should look like when you're done with the power cord exiting through the rear. Now we can mount our stand legs to the model, and each of these has its own marking, L for left and R for right. And the frame of reference for left and right is when you're looking at the model from the front of the spindle. So we'll start with the right hand side leg and we'll just slot that in. You'll notice that the tab should be facing the inside on the back. And then we'll do the left hand side, and again the tab on the back will be facing towards the inside. So it should look something like this. There are holes in there as well where each of those legs will receive another one of those M4x10 thread forming screws so they don't come out. When you're finished with this step, it should look something like this, and the model will stand on its own now. Now we can move on to the brake caliper mounting bracket, and this will get attached to the spindle. You'll notice that I'm placing it on the front side of the spindle body, and I'm going to mount it using 2 of these M10 socket head cap screws. If you're using a tool like a hex key to tighten these, do not go overboard tightening them. They're just plastic 3D printed screws. They just need to be snug. After that, we can assemble our brake caliper, and there's again 2 halves which you've printed, as well as 2 brake pads. The pads will go on the inside of the calipers like this, and each pad will get 2 more of those M4x10 thread forming screws. It should be pretty clear that those 2 screws will go into the counterbore holes in the brake pad. We can repeat the exact same process for the other half of the caliper, and then once we have our 2 halves complete, we can begin to attach them together. The 2 halves of the caliper will get assembled together using these long M8 socket head cap screws, and these are the screws that have those M8 washers. You'll place them through the top side of the caliper like this, and again I'll tighten them down using a tool, but they do not need to be over tightened as they're just made of plastic. And finally, we can insert our brake pad retaining pin. It also has a small washer on the one side, and on the rear, this is where we're going to slide in the C-clip. This will keep the pin retained in place, and it should not pop out. Your finished caliper should look something like this. Now we're finally ready to move on to the wheel bearing hub. And we've got to get those bearings in place before we can place it on the spindle. Earlier in the video, I explained how these bearings work and the configuration inside of the hub. So if you skipped over that, go back and watch. But essentially, we've got an inner cone and an outer cup, and the 2 fit together. I I can take the smaller of the two bearings, which is going to be the outer wheel bearing, and press that into the bearing hub, and then take the larger tapered roller wheel bearing and press it into the back of the hub. And pay attention to which way the bearing is getting inserted, because the direction does matter. Now we can take the entire wheel hub and place it directly on top of the spindle. If everything is aligned properly, the bearings should spin freely. Now we can take our spindle washer and place it on top, and you'll see there is an indexing feature for this washer. And this is to keep that washer from spinning against the bearing surface below. And then we can take our M16 castle nut and begin to thread that onto the threads of the spindle. I also explained earlier in the video that if you're not familiar with this kind of an assembly, the castle nut is what will provide some of the bearing preload. So the more you tighten that nut, the more the bearing cone will get forced into the cup and it will create more friction. This thing really only needs to be finger tight so that the bearings can spin freely. And if you really want to go for the ultimate realism, there are holes in there where you can place a cotter pin if you have some of those on hand. Now we're ready to grab our rotor and place it onto the hub. Align the 5 holes in the rotor with the 5 wheel studs, and it should slip over top, and then we can go and grab our 5 lug nuts and begin to thread those on to secure the rotor in place. And while I'm doing this, just another friendly reminder that these are all plastic nuts and bolts, so do not over tighten them. If you broke one at this stage in the build, it'd probably be pretty frustrating. With the rotor mounted, you can give it a spin and just make sure that it's not wobbling too much. The parts are 3D printed, so it may wobble a little bit, but it's just a display model, so it shouldn't really matter too much. Now we can mount our caliper, and we're going to insert the caliper over top of the rotor, and these M10 socket head cap screws will get threaded into the back of the caliper through the brake bracket, securing it in place. The rotor should be centered between the 2 brake pads, and it should still spin freely without contacting those pads. If yours is misaligned, then you may want to shim out the caliper, and you can do that using some thin M10 washers between the caliper and the brake bracket. So that summarizes the assembly, and you can see that I constructed 2 different rotors, one of them with gray acrylic and another one with some slightly frosted clear acrylic. With the clear acrylic rotor surfaces, I also switched over to using some RGB LED strips on the inside. The COB LEDs with the opaque rotors did look okay, but transparent rotors clearly made the lighting effect much more obvious. If you're 3D printing the rotor surfaces, perhaps you could use some sort of clear PETG or even clear PLA, and you should get a very nice diffused light. One final reminder that links to everything you need to build one of these yourself can be found in the video description down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this build. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. See you next time.